Janeway in Star Trek, Nemesis finally gave Voyager an official TNG movie cameo. When Star Trek, Nemesis hit theaters in 2002, it was largely billed as the final cinematic voyage of Star Trek, The Next Generation's crew. But hidden in a brief scene, delivered through a single, commanding appearance, was a moment that subtly bridged the gap between generations of Starfleet heroes. Admiral Catherine Janeway, formerly captain of the USS Voyager, made her big-screen debut in the TNG movie universe, effectively cementing Voyager's place within the broader Star Trek film continuity. For longtime fans, it was more than a cameo. It was vindication, reward, and a gentle passing of the torch. The scene that said so much in so little time, Admiral Janeway's appearance in Star Trek, Nemesis, is barely more than a minute long. In her brief scene, she communicates via viewscreen with Captain Jean-Luc Picard, giving him orders to proceed to Romulus for diplomatic negotiations, setting the main plot in motion. On the surface, it's a functional exposition scene. But context matters. This wasn't just any admiral. This was Catherine Janeway, the woman who defied impossible odds and brought her crew home from the far-flung Delta Quadrant. Seeing her in that admiral's uniform, firmly in a position of influence within Starfleet Command, wasn't just satisfying, it was the perfect capstone to Voyager's arc and the show's final legacy. Why Janeway's Nemesis appearance mattered so much. Up to that point, Voyager had ended with its 7th-season finale, Endgame, which aired in 2001. While the series ended with the ship's triumphant return to Earth, there were still unanswered questions. What happened next? Did Janeway get promoted? Would she be a part of the larger Star Trek canon moving forward, or would her journey be siloed off as many spin-offs had been? Nemesis answered that question with finality. Not only had Janeway been promoted to Admiral, but she was also giving strategic orders to Picard, one of the most respected and senior captains in Starfleet. It confirmed her ascension within the Federation hierarchy and hinted that her accomplishments in the Delta Quadrant were recognized and valued. In a franchise that thrives on continuity, appearances, and the passing of torches, this cameo served as a long-overdue acknowledgement of Voyager's importance to the Star Trek mythos. The fact that she was the only non-TNG character to appear in Nemesis underscored how far she and her series had come. The symbolism behind Janeway's cameo. To understand the deeper meaning of this moment, one must consider how Voyager was perceived during its original run. Premiering in 1995, it was the third live-action Star Trek show after the original series and The Next Generation. Unlike those two, Voyager featured a female captain, an unprecedented move in Star Trek at the time. Catherine Janeway was trailblazing by default. However, Voyager was not without its detractors. Critics often compared it unfavorably to TNG, claiming the writing was inconsistent or that the ship's frequent close calls with disaster made survival feel too easy. But fans knew better. They saw in Janeway a resilient, intelligent, and deeply principled leader who balanced scientific curiosity with ruthless survival instincts. She was not Picard, nor was she meant to be. She was Janeway, a woman charting a bold new course through uncharted space. So when Nemesis acknowledged her as a respected admiral, it was a tacit admission that her legacy was just as meaningful as that of Picard or Kirk. In fact, one could argue that her path to the upper echelons of Starfleet Command was more arduous, having been forged in the unforgiving crucible of the Delta Quadrant. Behind the scenes, how Kate Mulgrew ended up in Nemesis. Interestingly, Janeway's cameo was not originally intended to carry such symbolic weight. According to interviews with Nemesis screenwriter John Logan and others involved in production, including director Stuart Baird, the part could have been filled by any high-ranking admiral. But when discussions turned to potential cameos that might excite fans and connect the series, someone proposed the idea of using Admiral Janeway. Kate Mulgrew was brought in to film her brief scene quickly, reportedly shot in a single day, and her role was kept under wraps to surprise the audience. It worked. When fans saw her on screen, many audibly gasped. Her inclusion was small but powerful, reinforcing the interconnectedness of Star Trek's many series and timelines. A bridge between series. Beyond nostalgia, Janeway's inclusion also functioned as a narrative bridge. The Star Trek universe is vast, and while each series often focuses on its own ship and crew, the timeline and lore are shared. By inserting Janeway into the TNG film canon, Nemesis acknowledged that the universe doesn't reset with each show, it expands. This bridge helped to solidify what later series like Star Trek, Picard, and Star Trek Prodigy would continue to explore, that these characters coexist in the same timeline, influencing one another's legacies. Janeway wasn't just a footnote to Picard's story, she was a colleague, a fellow icon of Starfleet, deserving of her own seat at the galactic table. An unexpected but fitting farewell. It's worth noting that Nemesis was intended as the swan song for the TNG cast, though few anticipated it would be their last movie for over 2 decades. In that context, Janeway's cameo was also something of a bookend. While the TNG era was winding down, her appearance hinted at new leadership, new perspectives, and new challenges on the horizon. Though Star Trek Nemesis received mixed reviews and underperformed at the box office, it inadvertently gave Voyager fans something the series finale never quite delivered: canonical closure. Seeing Janeway not only back on Earth, but in a prestigious leadership role, affirmed that her sacrifices were honored and that her story continued. The legacy of that 1-minute cameo. Fast forward to the modern Trek Renaissance, and Janeway is more prominent than ever. Kate Mulgrew returned to voice the character in Star Trek Prodigy, mentoring a new generation of young spacefarers. There's also continued speculation about a possible live-action Janeway return, with Mulgrew herself expressing interest in reprising the role on screen. But no matter what happens in the future, Janeway's cameo in Nemesis remains a pivotal moment. It was the first and only time that Voyager's legacy intersected directly with the TNG movie universe. It served as a reminder that every ship, every mission, and every crew contributes to the larger story. And it told Voyager fans, yes, your captain matters too. A moment worth celebrating. In a film often remembered for its darker tone and farewell vibe, Janeway's brief appearance was a spark of light. It was recognition, not just of her, but of what Voyager meant to fans who had followed its 7-year journey. For a generation that watched her battle the Borg, navigate anomalies, and outwit Delta Quadrant warlords, seeing Janeway in that admiral's chair felt like a well-earned promotion for us all. Her line may have been simple, standard orders to a fellow officer, but it carried the weight of a history only true fans could fully appreciate. And in that moment, Star Trek reminded us that no captain's story ends when the credits roll. Some just continue in quieter, more powerful ways. Final thought. In the vast universe of Star Trek, moments of connection are often subtle but deeply resonant. Catherine Janeway's 1-minute appearance in Star Trek Nemesis was one such moment. It didn't need explosions or long speeches. It simply needed presence hers. And in that